The deception. The massive hegemony survey vessel, Relentless Observer, drifted at the edge of the Sol system, its obsidian hull absorbing, rather than reflecting light as it conducted comprehensive scans of the third planet. Admiral Xanar stood on the command deck, his tall frame casting long shadows across the gleaming control panels. The Admiral's four eyes narrowed as data streamed across holographic displays. "Primitive technology detected," reported Science Officer Vexel, her tentacles dancing across the sensor array. "No signs of faster-than-light capability. Rudimentary spacecraft limited to their own satellite and a small outpost on their natural satellite." Xanar nodded, unsurprised. The galactic hegemony had encountered hundreds of worlds like this one, species trapped on their home planets, barely able to explore their own star systems. Some had potential. Most would simply become resource worlds for the ever-expanding hegemony. "They have nuclear capabilities," Lieutenant Kraz added, looking up from his station. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of his console. "Primitive fission weapons. Nothing that could threaten our vessels, naturally." "Political structure?" Xanar inquired, moving closer to examine the data himself. Kraz brought up more information. "Interesting. They appear unified under something called the United Earth Council. Most species at this development stage are still fighting among themselves." Xanar's mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species. Unity makes them easier to process. One authority to pressure instead of hundreds. He straightened to his full 3-meter height. "Standard protocol. Mark them as Category 4. Pre-FTL civilization with unified governance. Request Colonial Affairs to prepare first contact protocols." 3 months later, the much larger hegemony diplomatic vessel, Benevolent Integration, descended through Earth's atmosphere, its sleek hull designed to impress with iridescent patterns that shifted in the sunlight. Inside, Ambassador Trelvik adjusted his ceremonial garments. "Remember," he told his staff, "appear friendly but firm. These humans must understand that hegemony protection is not optional but inevitable." The ship landed in a designated area in Shanghai, where Earth's representatives waited. Security forces had established a wide perimeter, keeping curious humans at a distance, while news networks broadcast the historic event worldwide. Ambassador Trelvik emerged first, followed by 8 guards in gleaming exoskeletons. His face bore the perfect balance of superiority and benevolence that had worked on countless worlds before. Secretary General Chen stepped forward. She was shorter than Trelvik, but stood with unmistakable dignity, her simple blue suit a stark contrast to his ornate vestments. On behalf of the galactic hegemony, Trelvik announced loudly, aware his words were being broadcast globally, "I extend the Supreme Council's greetings and protection to Earth. Your world now stands at the threshold of joining a greater galactic community." Chen bowed slightly. "Earth is honored by the hegemony's attention. Ambassador, we have much to learn from your advanced civilization." Trelvik smiled, pleased by her apparent submission. "The hegemony rewards those who recognize its wisdom. We will guide your development and protect you from the dangers that lurk between stars." "We request some time," Chen replied carefully. "Our people must adjust to the knowledge that we are not alone in the universe." "Of course," Trelvik said magnanimously. "The hegemony understands the shock of first contact. You may have 4 Earth months to prepare your population. Then we will begin the integration process." As they spoke, Admiral Rivera stood quietly behind Chen. His military uniform displayed minimal decorations, nothing that would suggest Earth's true capabilities. When Chen glanced briefly his way, he gave an almost imperceptible nod. The meeting continued with practiced politeness. The hegemony delegation found exactly what they expected: a somewhat advanced but ultimately inferior civilization awed by their new galactic overlords. That night, as the alien delegation rested in their luxury accommodations, Admiral Rivera entered a nondescript elevator in the basement of the Shanghai Military Command Center. The elevator required both retinal and voice recognition before beginning its descent, nearly 3 minutes straight down. When the doors opened, Rivera stepped into a vast underground complex. He walked briskly through multiple security checkpoints until he reached a transport tube. The magnetic vehicle accelerated to supersonic speeds, carrying him beneath the Pacific Ocean in under 15 minutes. From there, another shuttle carried him not to another Earth location, but to Luna Base Artemis, hidden beneath the lunar surface in a complex the hegemony scans had failed to detect. As Rivera entered the command center, officers snapped to attention. "At ease," he said, moving to the central console. The massive room hummed with activity, hundreds of personnel monitoring systems that officially did not exist. Rivera placed his palm on a scanner, then stated clearly, "Authorization. Rivera, Admiral, Earth Defense Fleet. Access Protocol Chimera." The main display activated, showing a map of the solar system with blinking lights representing hidden bases throughout, on Mars, Venus, within the asteroid belt, and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Rivera opened a secure channel. "The hegemony delegation has arrived exactly as anticipated. They've categorized us as pre-FTL, just as we hoped." The face of Fleet Admiral Kagawa appeared on screen, her expression tense but confident. Their arrogance blinds them. "What's the timeline?" 4 months before formal integration begins. That gives us the time we need for final preparations. Rivera took a deep breath and gave the order they had planned for decades. "They've taken the bait. Commence Operation Phoenix." Throughout the solar system, hidden hangar doors began to open. Ships that no hegemony scanner had detected powered up their advanced engines. Earth had actually developed faster than light travel 20 years earlier, but had kept it hidden, watching the hegemony's expansion with growing concern. Now, as the hegemony thought it was adding another simple conquest, humanity prepared to reveal its true strength at precisely the right moment. Captain Masick of the hegemony strolled through the rocket assembly facility with 4 other officers. Their pristine white uniforms stood out against the industrial gray of the facility. Workers in blue jumpsuits pretended to be busy, while stealing glances at the aliens. The building in Kenya was massive, with high ceilings and concrete floors. Partially assembled chemical rockets stood in various stages of completion. "This is where we build our orbital delivery systems," Dr. Puddle explained. She was a woman in her 50s with streaks of gray in her dark hair. "We can reach our own orbit, but nothing beyond that yet." Masick picked up a thruster component from a workbench, turning it over in his 3-fingered hands. "Quite primitive," he said with a slight smile. "You still use chemical propulsion. The efficiency must be terrible." "We work with what we know," Paddle replied with a humble nod. "But we're eager to learn from the hegemony." Masick set the part down. "The hegemony is generous with its knowledge to loyal worlds." He made a note on his tablet. These rockets could never achieve faster than light travel. At best, they might reach their neighboring planet in, 6 months? Usually, Paddle said. "Mars is quite far." "How quaint," another officer remarked, and the hegemony group shared knowing looks. Patil led them to the next section, where engine components lay scattered on tables. She provided technical explanations she knew would bore them. The more mundane the tour, the less they would suspect. After the hegemony delegation left, Paddle entered a small office and closed the door. She placed her hand on what looked like a normal wall panel. A hidden scanner arrayed her biometrics, and the wall silently slid open. She stepped into an elevator that took her 500 meters below ground. The real aerospace facility spread out before her, 10 times larger than the fake one above. Here, engineers worked on quantum engines and gravitational manipulation technology. No one wore jumpsuits. They wore standard clothes and lab coats. "Did they suspect anything?" asked Director Okafor. "No," Paddle smiled. "They believe exactly what we want them to believe." In orbit around Earth, the hegemony monitoring station Vigilant Eye floated among communications satellites. It was small by hegemony standards, but still impressive compared to what they believed were Earth's capabilities. Officer Grelk sat at the command chair, reviewing daily reports. He was young for his position, eager to prove himself to the hegemony. "Anything unusual?" he asked his sensor operator. "Nothing, sir. Earth continues normal activities. They're broadcasting their rocket test preparations for next week." Grelk nodded. "Good. Send the daily update to command. Earth remains compliant and primitive." What Grelk didn't know was that Earth's satellites incorporated special shielding that blocked the station's deepest scans, and beneath the oceans, in caverns on Mars, and hidden in the asteroid belt, Earth's real activities continued unseen. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, Fleet Admiral Kagawa floated through the command center of Fortress Ceres. The asteroid looked ordinary from outside, but inside it was hollow, housing Earth's largest shipyard. The main hangar stretched for kilometers, with hundreds of warships in neat rows. Kagawa pushed herself toward a holographic display where her engineering team waited. Earth had captured a damaged hegemony scout ship 15 years ago and had learned everything about hegemony technology. "Their FTL drive specifications are interesting," she said, pointing to the schematics. "They use gravitational folding to bend spacetime. Efficient but outdated." Chief Engineer Rodriguez nodded. "Their approach requires massive energy expenditure. Our quantum displacement system uses 63% less power and achieves 3 times the speed." "What about their weapon systems?" Commander Wu asked. "Plasma-based primarily," another engineer replied. "Our phased array particle beams will penetrate their shields like they aren't even there." Admiral Rivera, who had joined them via quantum entanglement communication, looked concerned. "The treaty signing ceremony is scheduled 6 weeks from now. Are we cutting it too close?" Around them, technicians moved between ships, applying final touches to hull plating and weapon systems. The fleet had been building in secret for over a decade, but last-minute adjustments were still needed. "We'll be ready," Kagawa said firmly. "The hegemony believes we're helpless. That's our advantage." She pushed off toward the nearest warship, its dark hull gleaming under the hangar lights. "How many ships are fully operational?" 436, Wu replied, checking his tablet. "Another 72 will be ready within 3 weeks." Kagawa nodded with satisfaction. The Earth ships were smaller than hegemony dreadnoughts, but more advanced in every way. What they lacked in size, they made up for in technology. And the stealth systems, all functioning perfectly, Rodriguez confirmed. "The hegemony has no idea we can mask quantum signatures. Their sensors are calibrated only for conventional drives." Back on Earth, human leaders maintained their active submission. They agreed to hegemony suggestions, expressed appropriate awe at hegemony technology, and kept the alien representatives comfortable and confident. In Geneva, Secretary General Chen met with her cabinet in a secure room swept for listening devices. "The treaty ceremony is set for July 10th, she informed them. "That's when we reveal ourselves." Defense Minister Okafor looked grim. "The hegemony fleet positions. They've stationed only 4 battle cruisers in our system," Admiral Rivera replied. "They don't see us as a threat, just another primitive world to absorb." Chen's expression remained calm, but determination burned in her eyes. "For 20 years, we've hidden our true capabilities. We've let them believe we're helpless while building our strength. One more month of deception, then we show the hegemony that humanity will not be conquered." The ministers nodded solemnly. Earth had discovered the hegemony's expansion pattern long ago. Find isolated worlds, overwhelm them with superior technology, and absorb them before they could develop proper defenses. Earth had chosen a different path. They would reveal themselves not as a primitive world, but as a fully developed galactic power. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Kagawa drifted alone through rows of waiting warships. In darkness, their hulls barely visible, hundreds of vessels slumbered, waiting for the signal to awaken. Soon, the galaxy would understand that humanity was not to be underestimated. The deception was almost complete. The revelation. The Grand Hall of Nations sparkled with light. Crystal chandeliers hung from high ceilings. Blue and silver banners of the galactic hegemony draped along marble walls. 1,000 people filled the room. Earth diplomats in formal suits sat on one side, hegemony officials in their ornate uniforms on the other. High Commissioner Draxel stood at the central podium. He was tall even for his species, with iridescent scales that shimmered under the ceremonial lights. Gold medals covered his chest, and his thin lips formed what humans would recognize as a smile, though it never reached his 4 eyes. "This day marks a turning point in Earth's history," Draxel announced, his voice carrying through the perfect acoustics of the hall. "Today, Earth joins the embrace of the galactic hegemony. Your world now steps into a greater future." In the front row, Hegemony Admiral Crozar nodded with satisfaction. Captain Mazik sat beside him, looking pleased. They had spent months evaluating Earth and found nothing concerning. Just another easy conquest for the hegemony. Near the treaty table, Secretary General Chen waited in her simple white suit. Her face showed the appropriate mix of honor and humility that the hegemony expected from new subjects. Behind her stood her aide, Director Patel, and Admiral Rivera in his dress uniform. They looked properly solemn for the occasion. "The treaty before you is standard for all new protectorate worlds," Draxel continued. "Earth will provide resources and manpower. In exchange, the hegemony will share limited technology and protection. You may maintain some self-governance under hegemony oversight." The terms were harsh, though Draxel presented them as generous. Earth would effectively become a mining colony. The treaty demanded 70% of Earth's mineral resources and required humans to serve in hegemony labor forces. Secretary General Chen stepped forward when Draxel gestured. A golden stylus waited on the treaty document. "It is my honor to welcome Earth into the hegemony family," Draxel said. "Once you sign, the integration process will begin immediately. Hegemony ships are already positioned to establish permanent bases on your moon and major continents." Chen reached for the stylus. The room fell silent. This was the moment Earth surrendered its independence. But then Patel, her aide, touched her earpiece. Her eyes widened slightly. She leaned forward and whispered in the Secretary General's ear. Chen's hand stopped inches from the stylus. Her expression didn't change, but she straightened up without taking it. "High Commissioner," she said calmly, "before we formalize our relationship, Earth would like to present a token of appreciation to the hegemony." Draxel looked confused. This wasn't in the protocol. "Token?" "Yes," Chen nodded. "We have prepared something special to mark this historic occasion." She turned to face the massive view screens that lined the wall behind the stage. "If you would direct your attention to the displays." The screens flickered to life, showing a view of Earth from orbit. It looked peaceful, blue and green against the blackness of space. The hegemony monitoring station was visible as a small dot. "What is this?" Draxel asked impatiently. "Just wait," Chen replied. "It's about to begin." Suddenly, the sensors detected energy spikes. First one, then dozens, then hundreds. On the moon's surface, hidden bay doors slid open from beneath the lunar dust. Sleek ships rose into space, their hulls gleaming with blue energy patterns along their sides. On another screen, the red sands of Mars shifted as more vessels emerged from underground bases. In the asteroid belt, what had appeared to be ordinary rocks split open, revealing ships hidden inside. Most shocking of all, Earth's oceans began to churn. Massive doors opened on the seafloor, and from these underwater bases rose the largest vessels of all, huge carriers and battleships, their designs unlike anything in the hegemony database. Within minutes, over 700 warships had appeared throughout the solar system. They moved with impossible speed, forming precise formations around Earth and its moon. The hegemony officials sat in stunned silence. Admiral Crozar stood up, his scales pale with shock. "Those are warships," he stammered. "Advanced warships." Draxel turned to Chen, his composed demeanor cracking. "What is the meaning of this? Where did these vessels come from?" Secretary General Chen's smile remained diplomatic, but now it held something else. Pride and strength that had been hidden before. The meaning is simple. Commissioner, she said clearly, Earth developed faster than light technology 23 years ago. We've been exploring the galaxy and watching your hegemony ever since. The room erupted in chaos. Hegemony officers shouted into communication devices. Earth diplomats remained calm, having been briefed about what would happen. On the screens, Earth ships moved with precision. Several positioned themselves around the small hegemony monitoring station. Others formed a defensive sphere around Earth itself. "This is impossible," Captain Mazik said, standing beside Admiral Crozer. "We scanned their planet thoroughly. They had no FTL capabilities." Admiral Rivera stepped forward. "You saw what we wanted you to see, Captain. The rockets in Kenya. Props. The satellites you monitored. Decoys." But Mazik struggled to understand. "Our scans would have detected advanced energy signatures. Your scans," Rivera said, "cannot detect quantum displacement drives. Your hegemony relies on gravitational folding technology, effective but outdated. Our ships operate on principles your science hasn't discovered yet." On another screen, Admiral Kagawa appeared from the bridge of her flagship, the Defiance. The vessel was massive, at least twice the size of the largest hegemony cruiser in the system. "Hegemony Monitoring Station," Kagawa said calmly. "This is Earth Defense Fleet Admiral Kagawa. Your vessels are now surrounded. Make no aggressive moves, and you will not be harmed." Draxel was shaking with rage. "This deception will not stand. The full might of the hegemony will descend upon your world for this treachery." Secretary General Chen's expression hardened slightly. "Commissioner, please look at the tactical display." A new screen showed the positions of all vessels in the solar system. The 4 hegemony cruisers that had been stationed near Mars were now surrounded by dozens of Earth ships. Their weapons were powered down, and their engines disabled by targeted electromagnetic pulses. "Your ships have already been neutralized," Chen explained. "And I should mention that we've disabled all FTL communications. No distress calls will reach your fleet. We've been studying your technology for decades," Admiral Rivera added. "We know its strengths and weaknesses. Your shields cannot stop our phase shift weapons. Your sensors cannot track our stealth systems." Admiral Crozer collapsed back into his chair. How? How could primitive humans achieve this level of technology? Secretary General Chen walked away from the treaty table, leaving the stylus untouched. "We were never primitive, Admiral. We simply understood the value of patience and deception. When we detected your first scout ships entering our galaxy 18 years ago, we saw how you treated other worlds. We decided to prepare rather than fall victim to hegemony expansion." Draxel's rage turned to calculation. "What do you want?" "A new treaty," Chen replied. "One between equals. Earth will not be conquered or colonized. We will negotiate fair terms for trade and cultural exchange, or we will not negotiate at all." High Commander Trelvik grabbed his communication device in panic. His hand shook as he watched the screen showing hundreds of Earth ships appearing across the solar system. This was impossible. Humans were primitive. They built chemical rockets and simple satellites. Yet the evidence before his eyes told a different story. "Hegemony Fleet Command, this is Earth Station. We have a situation," he began urgently. The device made a sharp crackling sound, then went silent. The lights on the communication console blinked red. All channels were dead. "Restore communications," Trelvik shouted at his crew. "Use emergency protocols." "Sir, nothing works," a technician replied. "All frequencies are being jammed. Even the quantum link is offline." Trelvik slammed his fist on the console. The hegemony had never been outmaneuvered like this before. His security team of 12 soldiers looked to him for guidance, their faces showing confusion and fear. In orbit around Earth, Officer Groke stood frozen on the bridge of the monitoring station. Through the viewport, he watched as sleek black ships surrounded his position. Their hulls gleamed with blue energy lines. They moved with impossible speed and precision, forming a perfect blockade. These ships looked nothing like the crude satellites humans had placed in orbit. They were elegant, advanced, and clearly built for war. Most alarming was their size. Several were larger than hegemony battle cruisers. The main screen on the bridge flickered to life. A human appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform with gold insignia on the shoulders. Her face was calm and confident. Imperial Station, this is Admiral Kagawa of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your vessels are surrounded and outgunned. Stand down immediately. Grelk glanced at his tactical officer, who nodded confirmation. They were indeed surrounded. But hegemony protocol was clear: never surrender. This is Officer Grelk of the Galactic Hegemony. Your deception will be punished. The hegemony does not negotiate with. Admiral Kagawa interrupted. Look at your tactical display. Your shields cannot stop our weapons. Your engines are already disabled. I am not negotiating. I am stating facts. 2 hegemony support ships docked at the station suddenly broke away. Their engines flared as they attempted to escape the blockade and send a warning to the hegemony. Sir, the Swift Messenger and hegemony are making a run for it, shouted Grelk's tactical officer. On screen, Admiral Kagawa sighed. That is unfortunate. 4 Earth ships moved to intercept. They fired thin beams of purple energy. The beams passed through the hegemony shields as if they weren't there. The ship's engines died instantly. They drifted helplessly in space, all systems offline but life support. How? Grelk whispered in disbelief. Hegemony shields were the best in the galaxy. Nothing could penetrate them so easily. Phase shift technology, Admiral Kagawa explained, as if reading his thoughts. Your shields are designed to block physical and energy attacks in normal space. Our weapons briefly shift to another phase state before impact. To your shields, they simply don't exist until they're already inside. Throughout the solar system, similar scenes played out. The 4 hegemony cruisers stationed near Mars found themselves surrounded by dozens of Earth vessels. Their weapons could not lock onto the fast-moving ships. Their shields offered no protection. In less than 8 minutes, every hegemony ship in the solar system was disabled or contained. Not a single distress call escaped to warn the hegemony. Back in the Grand Hall of Nations, silence had fallen. Hegemony dignitaries watched the screens in horror as their military advantage evaporated. Earth diplomats remained calm, having been briefed about the plan. High Commissioner Draxel's iridescent scales had dimmed to a dull gray. His hand trembled slightly as Secretary General Chen handed him a data tablet. These are our terms, she said calmly. Earth will remain independent and negotiate as an equal partner, or not at all. Draxel scrolled through the document. His eyes widened with each page. Where the original treaty would have made Earth a resource colony, this new document proposed a limited alliance. Earth would share some of its advanced technology, but not weapons. The hegemony would recognize Earth's sovereignty and all human colonies in nearby systems. Most shocking of all, Earth demanded the right to protect other developing worlds from hegemony expansion. This is unprecedented, Draxel said, his voice barely above a whisper. So is our situation, Chen replied with a small smile. The hegemony has never encountered a species that hid their capabilities so thoroughly, has it? Admiral Rivera stepped forward. Commissioner, you should know that we've been monitoring hegemony communications for years. We know about the 23 other worlds you've conquered. We know how you stripped their resources and reduced their populations to slave labor. Admiral Crozar stood up angrily. You dare to spy on the hegemony. This treaty will not stand when our fleet arrives. Your fleet won't be arriving. Admiral Rivera interrupted. We've deployed jump inhibitors throughout the system. No ship can enter using conventional FTL drives. In space, Admiral Kagawa's flagship moved alongside the hegemony monitoring station. Inside, Officer Grelk had finally accepted the reality of their situation. He ordered his crew to power down weapons and prepare for boarding. Earth Marines entered the station in sealed suits. They moved with practiced efficiency, securing key areas and gathering intelligence. The hegemony crew was confined to quarters but treated with respect. "Search everything," ordered Commander Santiago, leading the boarding party. "Download their databases. We need to know exactly what they've reported to their homeworld." One of the Marines found Commander Trelvik trying to destroy data in his office. The Marine easily disarmed him. "You don't understand what you're doing," Trelvik said as he was led away. "The hegemony spans thousands of worlds. You cannot hope to stand against it." Commander Santiago smiled behind her helmet. "We don't need to stand against the entire hegemony. We just need to make conquering us too costly to be worth the effort." In New York, the negotiation continued. Commissioner Draxel had moved from shock to bargaining. Secretary General Chen remained firm on her key points. Earth's independence would not be compromised. "The Supreme Council will never accept these terms," Draxel insisted. "They will when they understand the alternative," Chen replied. She nodded to an aide who activated another screen. The display showed a massive Earth ship emerging from behind Jupiter. It dwarfed everything else in the fleet. Even Draxel could not hide his reaction. "That is the EDF Prometheus," Secretary General Chen explained. "Our first planetary defense vessel. Its main weapon can destabilize a star's fusion process. We have no desire to use such weapons, but we will protect ourselves if threatened." For the first time in its long history of expansion, the galactic hegemony faced a choice: respect another species as equals or face a war they might not win. 3 months later, a new treaty was signed, not on Earth, but on neutral ground at the edge of the Sol system. The terms recognized Earth as a sovereign power with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. More importantly, the treaty established a new principle in galactic law. Developing worlds had the right to evolve without interference, a provision that Earth insisted upon, remembering the worlds that had fallen before them. As Earth ships began to visit neighboring systems openly, they found other species who had been watching the hegemony with fear. Some had hidden their own capabilities, though none as successfully as humans. Others were truly primitive, but had potential. Earth became something unexpected in the galaxy, not a conqueror like the hegemony, but a protector of emerging civilizations. And throughout the galaxy, the story spread of how a seemingly primitive world had deceived the mighty hegemony, revealing an armada that appeared from nowhere to change the balance of power forever. The revelation was complete. In one moment, everything the hegemony thought it knew about Earth had changed. Humanity had revealed itself not as a primitive species to be subjugated, but as a technological power to be reckoned with. And the galaxy would never be the same.